Shalom and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Yehuda Michael. I'm a program director at MCTC, MASHAV, Israel Agency for International Development Cooperation at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is welcoming you to Spotlight on Women Leaders of the World series. On this series, we invite women leaders from all over the world to share with us their experience. If you have any question to our guest today, please feel free to write it into the chat section and we'll get back into the questions at the end of the interview. Thank you so much again for joining us. We are honored today to host Anneli Rautiainen, Head of Innovation Center at the Finnish Agency for Education. The center is the first agency-level innovation unit in Finland. Ms. Rautiainen has graduated from Helsinki University with a master's in education. Prior to this position at the Innovation Center since 2017, she has been developing Finnish education as a teacher and a principal, in addition as a head of education, general education and professional development of education personnel at the government level. She is also a member of Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD Education2030 Working Group, and a member of OECD High Performing Systems for Tomorrow. Ms. Rautiainen attended MASHAV's International Women Conference in 2018. Welcome and shalom, Ms. Rautiainen. It is a pleasure to have you with us today in this program.
Thank you very much and shalom.
Thank you for taking time from your busy schedule to join us from Helsinki, Finland. We really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It's my pleasure to be here today.
I have actually a lot of questions for you today in regard to education. I'm a person who really believes in education. Actually, education is something that really changed my life. Since Finland has a lot of experience and ranked multiple times as a world #1 in a good education system, I think our audience have a lot to learn from your experience today. And once again, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview. I will go with the first question. Tell us about your current position at the Finnish Agency for Education, please.
Well, I have had a long career in education in Finland, and I have a privilege now to work in a different position, promoting innovation in education. And so we've been trying to, with our little team, to work with municipalities, which are the education providers, and also with government employees to find more iterative ways of solving the wicked problems that we face. And we don't always know the solution right away, but we can experiment, do different things and see what works and what doesn't work. So we're trying to break the hierarchical way of working also at the government level, and this has been very interesting.
Oh, that's a very important point you mentioned. I think I'm going to go with a follow-up question. What are the lessons that the world can learn from a Finnish education system in general?
Well, in general, I think we should build trust in our education systems all over the world, have less control and believe in our talented teachers. So teacher education, which is of high quality, is a model for getting the best students into teaching and getting the best outcomes of learning that way. And I also believe that we should have an open system so that there is enough autonomy at the school level, teachers level, municipal level, so that the government is there to enable and support rather than control. And I think high quality curriculum plays a key role also in the quality of education. But it all depends on our teachers that are kind of putting their heart also in the work and of course their talents as well.
Oh, that's really great perspective. The third question I want to ask you would be, what do you suggest needed to be the first step in order to adapt our education system to be more innovative and support innovation among children?
Well, I think the focus should be on children and teachers, and we should involve families and also other stakeholders and organizations in the surrounding area to work together. Because I think a lot of the innovations come from bottom up, and we need to have enough time to listen to people and their wishes and thoughts, and spend enough time, or maybe finding the problems that hinder us from achieving, and come together and trying to spend also time to look at different ways of solving problems, and so co-creating together the solutions is possible. And having a joint effort, you just bring people together, and they all have the talent to solve the problems together. And also from these experiments, we can then further develop innovations that will change a lot of things for a larger amount of people as well.
Okay, that's really important point you mentioned there. Many professionals in the field of education are talking about the education ecosystem, ideas as a potential game changer for today's learners. Can you explain more about the subject education ecosystem? What does that mean, and how is that actually implemented?
Well, I think the education ecosystem involves everyone, as students, teachers, municipalities, the education providers, and the governance. So we're working together as a system, but then to become an ecosystem requires a bit more. It requires a new way of communicating and interacting, so that if something happens at school level, we automatically react to it at the municipal level and government level. On the other hand, we have to learn to be very flexible and quick to go to the same direction. And innovation ecosystems is sharing awareness as a whole. And so we would, in order to become an ecosystem, we have to learn to kind of breathe in and breathe out. That means that we are reacting to the problems, for example, and have a joint effort solving them together. Let's see, if it's an issue that concerns well-being of students, for example, that automatically should involve the other actors to take actions to solve the problem for the best of the student. We're not quite there yet, but it's an important and kind of a future way of thinking how systems work. And collaboration and co-creations are like the key words, how we work towards the ecosystem in education.
Okay, very informative. I will actually gonna go and ask you about the teachers themselves. What is the role of teacher in modern day education? How do you describe that?
Well, the teacher is no longer the only source of knowledge in learning. However, a teacher should be facilitating learning, enabling the child to learn. And learning should be based on the strengths of a child, and also keep the challenges there in order to the child to learn more. And the learners are at the center of learning. They are the most important people in learning. And the role of government or the municipality is to provide resources and enable and support the work that schools do. And of course, the teachers also need to find new ways of teaching. Phenomenon-based teaching is important, as the students find their interesting topics to learn more about and discover the solutions and gather the knowledge together with their peers. So learning takes place in interaction amongst students and amongst adults as well. But the role of a teacher has changed, and then a key issue in schools is also collaborative teaching, so that teachers would start more and more teaching together as a team and also reflect on their work so that they learn from each other how they can improve learning and teaching on each individual child. So there's a kind of a shift in the roles. Student in the middle, facilitating teaching, learning by the teachers.
It's a great perspective. I want to ask you the second portion of the question, since teachers are not the only one who's playing a role, what do you think the role of the government that should play in education in general?
In general, they should be supportive and have enough guidance and also mentoring for the education providers, for the local authorities, and also for schools, so that the schools have the help that they need. They face some of the different and maybe difficult problems concerning well-being or social justice issues. All this is happening in schools, so they need to have the support and guidance that the government level can give. We need to be there to listen so that we know that we're not too far away from the actual school life. And of course, provide enough resources and have a good quality, high quality policy for every 4 years, which is sort of like the backbone of the development work that we do nationally.
Oh, great. Very important point you mentioned. A lot of time, biggest problem is how actually to ensure curriculum remains relevant throughout time. What is your opinion regarding to the subject?
We've renewed our curriculum approximately every 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And as we live in the very fast-paced and complex world at the moment, we need to ask, is that time frame too long? I think my idea of a curriculum that would be needed now is to have a flexible curriculum that can change when the learning environment and the surrounding world is changing. But we've formed our national curriculum in a collaborative way because we've involved the teachers, parents, nearly everyone in Finland can have a way to say what should be included in the curriculum and how learning should take place. And we have taken all the opinions into account. So I think it's important when you form a curriculum that it's a joint effort, but we should also reflect on it and have enough time for the teachers to use the curriculum and reflect and assess how it works, and then make the changes in a more flexible and faster ways than every 10 years.
Now that I think it's very important to revise the system, to the curriculum to remain very relevant for the time. I think the follow-up question I want to ask you is, a lot of people are arguing that the current curriculum or education system in general is not preparing people to the 21st century needs. And there's a lot of people who are suggesting to make adjustment, to make a change, and so on and so forth. Could you give us more detail about how Finnish education system preparing children future needs for the 21st century?
Well, for the 2014 curriculum, we included learning skills amongst subject learning. So the skills are embedded in all subject learning. So that was our way of kind of including the future skills, such as learning to learn skills, thinking skills, technological skills, taking care of oneself and others, and so forth, to embed those in all subject learning. However, I think the world is in such a fast pace right now that we would continuously need to ask what are the skills that the young people need for their working life, not only for their working life, but for their life right now. So if we want, and as we want the children and the young people to be the ones who build the future, they should probably have the current skills now. So then we come to the question again to have a flexible curriculum so that we can update the skills that we think that are necessary. Definitely collaborative skills, critical thinking skills are important now and in the future. So my question is that whether the future is here already or how can we be prepared? We all know from the last year's experience that we couldn't be prepared for an issue of pandemic that came to all of us suddenly, and we just learned to cope with it and learn from this situation. So I think that's the kind of future we will have ahead, but we need to keep the positive attitude and never lose hope. I mean, we have to provide the skills that children can build the future, young people can build the future, adults can do that. And that's why education is so important, because we can learn those skills together and start building our little world and bigger world together.
A lot of great perspective to learn from. Thank you. My next question will be more personal. What was your favorite moment or experience in your own education?
Well, this is a very nice question. I had many excellent teachers, but one in particular comes to my mind. In the 70s, when I was in basic education, I had a biology teacher who actually did already at that time phenomenon-based learning with us. We had little mice, we had little butterflies, and we had real animals that we worked with, and we experienced a kind of phenomenon problem-based learning. We had a problem with trying to experiment it with these real animals and come across with some key issues and knowledge and findings. So I think he was way ahead of his time. He was already teaching the way we think that we should teach now. So, but the reason why I remember him so well was because he kind of placed us in the middle of all learning. We were engaged in learning. We were excited. We couldn't wait to get back to school to work in the biology class. So learning by doing, and so he knew already at that time, long time ago, what really attracted teenagers.
Great memories. It's always for me also the same. A good teacher is making me to like actually the school itself, and it have a great impact in many children. It's a great memory. My next question will be, can you share with us your biggest accomplishment and how you were able to accomplish it?
Yes, as I have worked as a teacher for a long time, and a few years ago, I met a guy who was my student in grade 1 to 4. And he came to me and he said, I have to say to you that you made a difference in my life. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for you being my teacher. And you made a difference and you made me feel worthwhile. And it helped me because I lived in a very difficult family situation. And I had no idea back then that I had been important in his life. I think that is something that really touches me, because you can make a difference in children's life, being a teacher, being an adult, being anyone, just by maybe seeing, listening, caring, and also supporting and making children believe in themselves. so that they can build their future. So that was a very touching moment. I think then I realized that despite that I wasn't aware how important that time had been for the little guy. Now that he was a grown-up man, he came to me and told me about it.
Wow, that's amazing. It's always really great to hear back from people that you made some impact on their life, and yeah, that's really, really amazing. So my last question for you will be, what are some of the biggest challenge you have had to overcome, and how do you do it?
Biggest challenges have probably been sometimes as a leader, to lead people in difficult situations. And it's important to get everyone's potential into use. So it's sometimes difficult to find a way to support everyone in a way as a leader so that they can work to their full potential. It's very important, but it's also very difficult because what works with one person doesn't maybe work with another person. And just to believe in everyone and support everyone to their best.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rautner, for being with us and sharing your experience. It is very important and we learned a lot from you. We do have some few questions from the audience that come up. My colleague Nuria Levy will gonna present. I think Nuria Levy is here with us already. So she will present our questions to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anneli, thank you so much. It's been absolutely wonderful hearing you speak once more. Anneli was here with us in Israel in 2018. It seems like a lifetime ago that we were able to meet with people and to welcome people here in our center. And she was part of the International Women's Conference. So again, it's really good to see you being here with us, even if it's through Zoom, but we're doing great this way. Thank goodness we've got this medium.
Thank you for a week that I was able to spend with such fascinating people.
Thank you so much. We've actually been following you through our Facebook, and you've had a lot of thumbs up and a lot of likes for all this interview, throughout the whole interview. So I just wanted to thank you for that. We've got people following you from Asia. We've got people in Vietnam, people in Africa, Nigeria commented on your messages. So we wanted to ask you a question regarding specifically about this pandemic that we're all suffering right now. And for people, it's interesting to understand better regarding resources. One of the biggest issues that we've had when we've been faced with the COVID and moving the students from the classroom to the virtual world is in some countries they were better prepared than others. And but there's been a lack of resources in many parts of the world. What would be your advice to parents and to teachers alike regarding this issue?
Well, this was all a surprise for every country, and certainly for us too. We closed the schools in March, and we took the students back to school 2 weeks before school ended in the beginning of June. And we wanted to see that we hadn't lost anyone because of there are issues in families concerning well-being and such. Now we opened the schools for this year in the mid-August, and we still keep them open. The early childhood education and care and basic education and upper secondary education and vocational education and training. The only part that is completely in distant learning at the moment is the universities. It was a challenge for the teachers. So I think what we need to do is to make sure that the teachers have peer support, enough support, tutor teachers to really help them out with technology and the new way of learning, the digital pedagogy, so to speak, so that no teacher is being left alone. The advice for the parents was that we said that you don't have to teach your children, you just have to supervise that they are learning. So we never really wanted the schools to be closed in a way that learning would stop. But it was challenging for the parents to work from home and to have the children learning from home and to have enough devices and so on. So we at the government also took part in this kind of campaign that we provided more devices for the families and students who didn't have them, so that everyone would have a device to work with. And what happened with us was that the teachers really started in small steps, but they were able to then finally deliver teaching in a way that children were also learning from each other online, just as if they were like learning in class. But certainly it was a tough effort for the teachers and for the families with us also.
It certainly has been a challenge here in Israel. We closed at the beginning of March, and our cases of corona went rapidly down. But then in the middle of May, when we open and we send the children back to school, unfortunately, the cases start climbing up. And we did open to all the students, but we saw that there was an issue there with the spread of the virus. And now we're closed again, and we're finding that we're going back to school in stages, very much like Finland. We also have the little children back in the education system, the preschoolers, and I think it's very soon they're opening with the lower grades. But again, we still have the majority of the students still learning from home, which creates a big problem, not just for the parents and for the students, but it's a psychological problem now that we're seeing, especially with teenagers being trapped at home. And I was wondering whether you have any tips to help our lovely students on how to cope emotionally with this situation. And also for the teachers, because they're also suffering from the same issues. They also are parents, they also have children learning from home. So I would love to hear what are your tips for this?
We had a great concern of well-being of students, and we lost some students, despite that some of the teachers were calling them at home in the evening, supporting the parents, which they didn't have to do, but they wanted to do, and they wanted to do everything not to lose the students. In the meantime, in the spring, the government offered more money for education to kind of upkeep the well-being and learning issues. And so our psychologists and counselors and school nurses have been available, of course, during the closing of schools, but also now. And schools have been given extra funding to have extra teaching for those who need it. But now that schools have been open since mid-August, we haven't had any large breakouts. We've had some cases in certain schools, but all schools are open and have remained open. But this really is an issue that emotionally will take a long time, I believe. So we need to spend time while teaching, while being a parent, to supervise also the well-being of our children, own children, and our neighbors, and our students and colleagues also, so that we can all support each other. I think that's the best that we can have, is not to leave anyone alone, but to have a joint effort to make through this together. And also, it's wonderful to be in this international content, just to share these same issues, same worries, and same joys, and just give encouragement to all of us. I just wish that every country can make through this.
Just, it's so true what you're saying. I've got one last question for you regarding one of the comments you made earlier about building collaboration between the different actors in the education ecosystem. And many parents send their children to school to be educated, and they take very much a backstage role when it comes to their education. And I think this whole pandemic is a little bit of a wake-up call that they also have to be more involved in the education of their children. They're actually been at home with them, and they're seeing day to day what they do. And the question would be, how can we actually get parents to be more involved in their everyday education of their children, and how they can collaborate better with the schools and the education system?
I think it requires more and more communication and interaction, so that we're in touch with parents also when we don't have difficulties or problems with a child, so that it becomes a daily natural way of talking about learning and behavior issues and well-being of each child. I think it's has a lot to do with trust, that we build trust by communicating more. I think one of the positive outcomes of last spring was that interaction between parents and teachers increased. And I hope we keep it that way, that if we learned that this was a positive thing, that we will continue that way, because it's all about the fact that we are supporting the child from school's point of view, learning, well-being, and from the family's point of view, raising a child, and have a joint effort. I know the parents are busy in their working life. It's not always possible to be so much involved, but that's why sort of the building the trust stays there also during the time when people are busy, don't have the time and effort to take the time, extra time to do it. So I think that's one of the learnings that we bring along. And I just feel that sometimes we make decisions on behalf of people that are not involved in the decision making. That's why I like the ecosystem idea, that we involve everyone in the system to solve the problems collaboratively. And we should also celebrate collaboratively once we, find solutions and work together. So it is so much needed. And despite what we do and how busy we are, we should take the time for the best of our children.
Absolutely. They are our future after all. And it's very important to keep up with their education. So I thank you very, very much. You've got lovely comments from all over the world. And thank you again. Thank you again for being with us once more, and for your inspiration talking to us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for this opportunity to be part of this international kind of discussion today. And I hope everyone stays well and healthy, and all the best to everyone in every part of the world. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Nuria. Thank you, Mr. Odner. Thank you for taking time to be with us and also to share your experience with our audience from all over the world. I also want to thank all of our audiences throughout the world that attended this discussion interview. Please follow our social media and also check our website to see the upcoming event that we have. We will also gonna have another guest in a month from now in the Spotlight interview series. Once again, thank you so much, and shalom.
Shalom.